Good.
Good, guys.
Everybody good? Well, thank you for coming. For the second time in 2 months, we have undertaken a sting operation seeking out those that are targeting kids. And so we are announcing the arrest of 3 individuals that use the internet to arrange what they thought was going to be a sexual encounter with a child under the age of 15 or under the age of 16. And I said in June when we arrested the first group that our tactics are clear. If you target kids, we're going to target you. And so apparently these 2 didn't get the message. So it was delivered to them in person by our deputies. And working in conjunction with our Special Investigation Unit, Computer Crimes Unit, our Fugitive Apprehension Team, and also with great partnership with Genesee County Sheriff's Office, this operation was completed. On July 6th, at a location selected in Independence Township, we arrested these 3 adult males that were attempting to entice and have sex with girls under the age of 16. They used techniques known to draw the attention of these predators, and they quickly received a lot of interest from people literally all over the country. I mean, that is a scary but true statement. There are individuals looking for kids that as soon as you put the hook in the water, they are coming from all over the country looking for targeting kids. And so these 3 showed up. And so you'll be getting, you have their pictures and their names. Each are charged with 4 felonies: child sexually abusive material, felony up to 20 years in prison or a $100,000 fine. Using a computer to commit a crime, 10 to 20 years and a $10,000 fine. Accosting for immoral purposes children, 4 years and a $4,000 crime or a fine. And using a computer to commit a crime, 4 to 10 years. Bond was set at $75,000 for Heritage, and the other 2 received $50,000 cash or surety for the other 2. They all were released on bond on Saturday with the condition that they not have contact with children who are not related to them. And that just tells you something really tragic there too, that potentially they can have children related to them, and yet they chose to seek out other children to do this horrific activity. So hopefully at this point, the message will be received that if you target kids, we're coming for you. And hopefully more and more agencies like Genesee that's taken leadership certainly on lots of levels, and ours and those across the country will begin to make that message resonate all across the country. Because as I said, as soon as they started this undercover operation, they received messages from all over the country. This time 3 men from Michigan, 2 of which tragically and sadly from Oakland County participated. But they were being communicated with from all over the country. So fairly short and sweet, disgusting on every level, and we look forward to holding these individuals accountable that target children. Questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the bond on Heritage.
$50,000 for Heritage. $75,000 for Heritage and $50,000 for the other 2.
Gotcha. And they were arrested in Independence Township.
Yes.
Can we say where?
We don't want to necessarily target a business because we used it as a location.
So it's a business.
We used it as a fictitious location where this girl would be met up with them. So it's a real business.
Yeah, can you, when you say you have the hook in the water and you put the word out without giving away your technique, can you kind of give us in a layman's term? are you posting an ad someplace or?
Well, there's some chat and some discussion utilizing websites that we know individuals use to target kids and also for prostitution purposes.
So you're posting an ad and then they respond?
Not so much an ad, chat, discussions.
So that avoids entrapment. How?
The girl doesn't say, I'm under 15, who wants to blah, blah, blah. That would be entrapment. If you're specifically placing in the mind of a previously innocent person the thought to commit a criminal act, that's entrapment. If you are out there and you're a girl and you're underage and someone asks, would you, then it's not entrapment, or tries to get you to move in that direction.
And my one question about which two are from Oakland County is answered in the release. Of the different people who contacted this decoy or whatever, nationally, were they arrested in different types of stings, or these three were?
These three showed up, so obviously there's different levels. You know, you probably can begin, depending on specific language, what's said, to potentially target other people. But it makes prosecution, now we handed it off to our prosecutor. The fact that they not only had that conversation, but they got in the car and went in looking for that child, clearly shows a much higher level of intent to carry out that criminal act.
Besides getting in the car, was there any other evidence that they planned on this criminal act?
The discussion, the actual verbiage of what they said
Yes.
was criminal in nature, and then they showed up to carry out that discussion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking other things like hotel reservations or whatever, I don't even know. So,
The rest of specific evidentiary stuff will come out during the criminal proceedings. We usually leave that for the prosecutor.
We did a quick search. Is Perusa, or however you would say his name, is he with the Army somehow and tied into Oakland University? We did a quick search.
Yes.
So does that make him a public official? How would you describe that?
I don't have a much, I just know what you said, but I don't have much more background on that. We can probably run that down. Certainly it'll be coming out.
Does that make it more disturbing?
Well, I don't know how you can characterize anything more disturbing than literally grown men seeking what they thought is a under 16-year-old girl to have sex with. I mean, it's about as disgusting as it gets, regardless of where they work.
and did you mention they are all or some of them are fathers themselves?
Well, that's a condition of bond. I probably can ask our investigators if they're parents or, but any, you know, nephews, nieces, anything related to them, they can't be around kids.
No, I'm just wondering if they were also fathers themselves.
I'd have to ask our investigators.
And along that same context, since they've been released, are they still considered a threat? Could there be other attempts by these guys to?
Well, without question. I mean, they were told not to have any communication or interaction with children under the age of, 15 or under, but obviously there was criminal statutes in place when they did this, so we presume a predator, a pedophile, will continue those tendencies until they have sufficient legal reason to stop.
Do any of them have a history?
No.
Previous history?
No criminal history at all.
No.
Okay.
What would you tell parents of teens to look for in terms of their kids' safety? I mean, obviously you're warning adult predators, but
Well, what, we've been teaching and talking to parents for many, many years. You have to have regular and consistent conversations with your kids. And basically, it's age appropriate. So, you talk to them in a way that befits that age, but it can start at a very young age. If anyone asks you certain questions or wants to know personal information about you, come tell mommy or daddy. So at least begin the relationship-driven question and answer so that they would say, hey, mommy, this guy said that he would like to meet me, or some person I don't know started talking to me, so that even at a young age, they begin that, I need to tell mom and dad about that. Because it can escalate very quickly, and as you see, they can jump in cars because they're that motivated. And so a conversation with your kids, watching, the kind of things that they say and do, look for changes in their behavior. If someone has already been groomed and now they're being victimized, they may become withdrawn. They may change their friendships, their social circles, their interests may change. If they become a victim, oftentimes predators spin them into human trafficking and try to share them. And they can be living under a parent's roof and the parent doesn't even know that. We've seen victims of that right here in Oakland County, where people have been trafficked even though they're living in a house. So you got to tune into what's going on in your kid's life. And it could be something horrific like this. It could be maybe they've been bullied, maybe they're having, we know child suicide's up. So you really have to tune in to changes in behavior. What are they up to? Who are they talking to? And be that resource for them.
Is there any statistical reason to support what I think a lot of people suspect, I do, that this type of behavior has become more frequent with social media?
Oh, without question. Because, when I started, I actually worked on the Oakland County child killer case. If you look back in the day, predators had to go where kids were physically. They had to go to schools, they had to go to playgrounds, they had to go to skating parks, they had to physically show up. Now, they control the internet from anywhere in the world. And oftentimes with, some anonymity, so they're not visible standing outside of a baseball game where kids are playing t-ball. They're on the internet in their basement. And they may not become known until someone flags them or they attempt to do something like this. So without question, it has emboldened individuals and groups. There are groups that communicate techniques. They share child pornography, and they talk about how to avoid being caught up by the police.
How long from when this initiative started to when these 3 individuals were arrested? Was this a matter of months, weeks, or days, or is this an ongoing?
They started the operation in within 24 hours. They had already, 3 people showing up. That's what I mean. It goes from conversation to action very quickly sometimes. Some of the older cases we used to do with computer crimes, sometimes they developed over a period of weeks or months. There was grooming and specific kinds of behavior and things. Now we're seeing that, sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's also an immediate thing. I remember a case where we had someone got in his car in southern Ohio and drove here nonstop.
Were you able to say where they thought they were going to do a meetup? Did they think they were going to a motel?
Yes.
Obviously, you guys are continuing to do things like this, these stings and operations. These criminals are gonna get smarter over time as they start seeing that, oh, hey, people like, you guys are having more success in catching them. So what are some of the things that you are doing to try to adapt to some of the strategies they may have to avoid detection or, avoid, I don't think this is legit.
Well, that's part of why we're not specifically saying what we say or how that begins, but we adapt as they adapt. As I said, it used to be a very different thing, and now there's different sites, there's different chat processes, there's different places without being specific. And so as we learn, we adapt. And if they adapt, we adapt again. If you're gonna come for kids, we're coming from you, regardless of where you are or how you seek out children.
This is a little off the wall, but if somebody has a proclivity and they wanna get help, how do they do it without getting arrested? If they haven't interacted like this yet, but they're like, okay, I'm gonna get in trouble, what do they do?
Absolutely seek out mental health, seek out counseling. I mean, to have the desire to have sex with a child is an abnormal urge. And there are very specific mental health disciplines that work with people that have that. Anybody else?
Slightly off topic, I do have a question.
Okay.
President signed this gun safety bill today. What do you think it's gonna mean here in Oakland County? You had some county officials, Executive Dave Coulter was there. This is I know you're more familiar with it probably than I am, but what do you think it means here in Oakland County?
Yeah, I mean, there are some things that were done in that package. You know, obviously, making sausage requires all sorts of kind of give and take. As you know, the Major County Sheriffs of America, which I'm the head of government affairs, has offered very specific things. Some of those things they talked about, but they didn't get fully accomplished. You know, and one of the biggest things that needs to get a great deal of attention, in our opinion, major counties, is the NICS system, the background check system that relates to guns. So the last check and report I saw had 7 million people that were legally prohibited by way of a conviction were not entered into the system, meaning they could show up at a gun store and purchase. That's a huge problem, right? They're still, I don't think, completely fixed convictions and activities in the military that move into the NICS system. That was very evident with Fort Hood. Also, there are very little, if you look at the statistics, prosecutions of individuals that are on the prohibited list that go in and attempt to purchase. Only 1.5% of those that actually tried illegally to purchase that were screened out by the system were ever prosecuted. If you're not going after those folks, that's a problem in our opinion, because they don't quit after the one gun store that maybe they went in and were told, no, you're prohibited by law, you've just committed a crime, and they leave. If they're not prosecuted, they're going someplace else. And so we've been trying to get the federal government to notify the jurisdiction of record for that attempt that's criminal, and to immediately notify that jurisdiction. And if they make that change on the federal level, they're talking about sending it to the state, but that can go to a records bureau and there can be time, right? They immediately notify the jurisdiction of record. Once they make that change on the federal level, we'll seek legislation on the state level to make that a state crime. And so we could immediately send someone out to begin the process of finding the person that broke the law, that's a convicted criminal and is not allowed to try to buy a gun, who just did. So there are those kinds of things. And finally, you know, so many people get caught with guns, the federal government has to figure out which side of the accountability ledger they're on. When they did First Step Act, the first draft said that you had to have 3 or more convictions carrying a gun illegally to not be considered for early out. When you catch somebody illegally possessing and using a gun in a crime, those are the ones that need to be shown high accountability. They need to be shown that they'll be held accountable for their criminality with firearms. If you target the people that are illegally carrying and using firearms, you will bring down gun violence.
Has your group taken a position, or do you personally have a position on red flag laws?
I helped with a number of very specific language changes on a bill that was a number of years ago introduced, and I supported it. So what you have to have is very, as I know as a former legislator, very specific language that allows the process to have due process and is a system that works. Thank you.
Thank you.